Welcome to another video by Old Hiking Geezer. Each year Ireland receives thousands of visitors and thousands of people move to the Republic. There are many reasons for visiting: a summer break, visiting relatives, a stag or hen party. That's a bachelor party or a bachelorette party to our transatlantic friends. Or perhaps you have Irish roots. Please remember though that having an Irish great-great-grandfather who left Ireland for a foreign land doesn't make you Irish. It makes you of Irish descent. Of course, no one, apart from a refugee, would move to Ireland without first visiting, would they? Well, yes they would. Mrs. Old Hiking Geezer and I did. We were living in the UK and Brexit happened. Gabby, Mrs. Old Hiking Geezer, is German, and we were unsure how she would be treated. She had already received abuse from young right-winged idiots while driving her cab, and we wondered if indeed she would be allowed to stay in the UK. So, at the age of 60 and 65, we upped sticks and moved to the west of Ireland. Ireland has completely seduced me, but have I absorbed the Irish way of life? Well, after living in the UK for 65 years, I doubt if I will ever speak with an Irish accent, but recently I received a fantastic compliment when an Irishman told me that I was more Irish than him. This video covers some of the ways that Ireland differs from the UK and vice versa. We are comparing Ireland to the UK simply because the UK is the country that Gabby and I relate to. Don't worry if you aren't from either, you may still learn a little about both places. Some people may think that in this video I am biased in favour of Ireland. I'm not. If I think that the UK does a particular thing better, then I will say. If I think that the Irish way is better, I will mention that. But in most cases, there is no one way that is better or worse, just different. So what differences have we found? Well, stick with us and we will highlight some of the differences between Ireland and Great Britain. Well, Great Britain of 2.5 years ago when we left. I cannot do a comparison to the US because I haven't been there since the 1980s. So off we go, onwards and upwards. If you're a tourist in Ireland, you may have hired a car, or if you've moved to Ireland, you may have imported a car or purchased one on arrival. This means that some of the first differences you will notice will revolve around motoring and the roads. The advantage that the British tourist or immigrant has is that Ireland drives on the left and the steering wheel is on the right. Distances in the Irish Republic are measured in kilometres and speeds in kilometres per hour. Irish roads are generally maintained to a higher standard than British roads with far fewer potholes. We did find one extremely bad road north of Sligo town, but that was an exception. This is the M25, London's orbital motorway, known to anybody who drives it regularly as London's orbital car park because of the congestion. Irish motorways, also prefixed by the letter N, tend to be a little quieter, with a speed limit where allowed of 120 km per hour, which is 74 miles per hour, 4 miles per hour faster than the UK limit. There are 11 toll roads in Ireland. These are mainly stretches of motorway, mostly in or around Dublin, with a few scattered across the country. One non-motorway road has a toll, that's the N25 Waterford City Bypass. Finally, there are 2 tunnels and a bridge which you're charged to use. All the roads except one have barriers and toll booths where you pay to enter the chargeable section. The M50 in Dublin is barrier free. You can buy a tag and set up an account, pay online or download the Apple or Android app. Another thing that a British driver will find strange is laybys on motorways. These only work in Ireland because the M roads are so quiet. Road signs are a little different to very different depending on what type of sign you're looking at. Most UK signs are triangular, with the most common triangular one being the give way sign. In Ireland, the give way sign becomes the yield sign, and most informative signs are yellow diamonds. Junction signs actually give a true representation of the junction layout. So, what about non-motorway roads? Well, the next road below motorway in the UK is an A road. The Republic doesn't have A roads, but has N national roads instead. These can be single or dual carriageway, and the speed limits are up to 100 kilometers per hour, although the limits drop to 50 kph in towns. There may even be 30 kph limits in some towns, although I haven't come across any yet. Before we look at other road classes, a quick look at traffic lights. British traffic lights go from red, then red and amber, green, amber and back to red. Irish traffic lights miss out the red and amber phase, going straight from red to green. This means that no one jumps the lights before green comes on. The next class of road is comparable to the British B road seen here. I'm talking about the Irish R or regional road. This is the R294 where it passes the end of our driveway. These secondary roads are far more common in Ireland than in the UK. Lastly, a road type from Ireland that has no direct equivalent in the UK, the L or local road. There are many thousands of these, and some have the letter L followed by 5 numbers. I'm not going to say a lot about the mountains. We have videos on those for you to watch. The highest mountain in Ireland is Carron-2 Hill in County Kerry at 1,038.6 metres, as opposed to Ben Nevis in Scotland, the highest peak in Great Britain, at 1,345 metres. Many lower peaks that would be called hills in Great Britain are still called mountains here. Be wary, the right to roam doesn't yet exist in Ireland, although there is pressure to introduce it. Picture an Irish person drinking and you'll probably see somebody with a Guinness or at a push an Irish whiskey in their hand. This doesn't, however, mean that these are the only alcoholic beverages available. Cider is another popular drink in the Republic. Many of our British viewers will know of Bulmers, but did you know that Ireland has its own Bulmers cider, a totally different company, whose product is available in the UK where it is known as Magners. One thing that you rarely see in Ireland is a beer engine, commonly known as a hand pump. Nearly all Irish beer is dispensed using gas. Thank God I've grown to love Guinness because I can't stand gassy beer. Despite Ireland being a country that uses the metric system, beer in pubs and bars is sold in pints. Although potatoes play an important part in Irish cuisine, they aren't as dominant as they were in years gone by. Generally, food in Ireland is similar to that in the UK, but certain specialities are hard to find, like Cornish pasties and crumpets. One Irish speciality that you must try is the chicken fillet roll. You will be asked what you want in it. You start with a type of chicken like plain or spicy, then you add extras like lettuce, mayonnaise, cheese, stuffing, taco sauce or even potato wedges. It is Ireland, so potatoes had to get a look in somewhere. Ireland has its own version of British favourites. I found this, Kira the caterpillar, obviously a nod to Britain's Colin the caterpillar. Restaurant food is top class. This is the quality of Irish pub grub. So let's have some fast facts. Ireland is more relaxed. There is less stress and you don't have to fight for everything. What could be more Irish than kicking off your shoes, even if you're wearing odd socks, and relaxing on a bench in the town square with your harp? Public officials want to help. More than my job's worth doesn't seem to exist. Food quality is maintained by Bord Beer, which is Irish for food board. This means that Irish food quality is a little better than UK food quality and far, far better than US standards. Unfortunately, you must check the weather forecast before hanging out the washing. People have a more trusting attitude, as I've found on a number of occasions. One occasion that springs to mind is when I went to exchange my propane gas bottle. I paid for the exchange and drove to the pickup point. I opened the boot to get the empty bottle out and, horror of horrors, I'd left the empty, worth €30, at home. I was told without hesitation, don't worry, bring it back in next time you're passing. I left with a full bottle and returned the next day with an empty one. A cupboard is called a press and an airing cupboard is called a hot press. Many banks close for lunch and at the weekend. Don't look for a cheque deposit. In Ireland it's called cheque lodgement. The euro is the only accepted currency, not sterling and definitely not US dollars. Change can be rounded up or down to the nearest 5 cents. This isn't a legal requirement, both parties must agree, but it's pretty universal. And while we're on the subject of money, using my Irish debit card I can withdraw up to €1,500 at an Irish ATM, which is a lot higher than the typical £300 using a British card. One thing that Ireland suffers from is power outages after the many Atlantic storms. This can also have a knock-on effect on the water supply if the pumping station loses power. The primary reason for these power outages is damage to the overhead power lines. Very little of Ireland's power infrastructure is buried underground, so it is vulnerable, far more so than in the UK. Now a similarity and not a difference. Ireland uses an AC voltage of 230 volts at 50 Hz. The plug used is the G-type, also used in the UK, the UAE, Qatar, Malta, Hong Kong and many other places. This meant that when we moved here, all of our appliances worked. In the cities and large towns you are almost guaranteed to get at least 4G coverage. Out in the sticks, like where we live, it's not as good. We get low 3G service if we stand on one leg and hang out the bedroom window. That's an exaggeration, but the service in the countryside is poor. UK coverage is generally much better. Ireland is making a huge effort to give everyone access to high-speed fibre broadband. At the present time we have to use 2 internet providers because fibre hasn't reached us yet. We use Imagine.ie because we can use a VoIP phone through them, but we have found that the signal, which is broadcast from a mast 18 kilometres away, is pretty patchy, and in our opinion their customer service is appalling. The other is Starlink, but there are 2 drawbacks to this. Firstly, it isn't easy to attach a VoIP phone, and secondly, although this is purely personal, Elon Musk has his grubby hands on our money. I know, I'm sorry I shouldn't bring politics into this, but I couldn't help it this one time. When fibre does arrive anytime between October and December 2025, which is at least 6 months away from the time of publication, our 2 existing expensive providers will be kicked into touch. British broadband is at present superior, but just wait. Many people have told me that certain animals are missing from Ireland. That's like saying that kangaroos, wombats and Tasmanian devils are missing from the UK. The animals that people are referring to simply never reached Ireland or left during the last ice age and never got back. The first example of an animal not found here is the mole. Why Ireland has mountains is beyond me because they've no molehills to make them from. Next, the common toad. Natterjack toads are Ireland's equivalent to the common toad, but the most famous non-existent creatures are the snakes. St Patrick never banished the snakes because Ireland simply never had snakes. The cute weasel is one of the mustelids that cannot be found, along with the polecat. One bird that I used to love hearing when I was overnight camping in a British forest was the tawny owl. Irish forests can be eerily silent at night. I was also told there were no woodpeckers in Ireland. Well, there are certainly no green woodpeckers, but the greater spotted woodpecker has started to establish itself in the east. And there are no exceedingly cute dormouses or whatever the plural is. Neither the hazel or the edible varieties are resident. Of all the deer species found in the UK, the roe deer and the Chinese water deer are missing from Ireland. And now for an animal unique to Ireland. Brown hares are in Ireland but are extremely rare. Mountain hares do not live here, but we've got an equally impressive replacement, the Irish hare. A subspecies of the mountain hare, the Irish hare doesn't usually turn white in winter. We are lucky to see quite a few of these, and this was filmed from our house. We came from the east of England and were surprised how light it stayed in the evening in the west of Ireland. England and Ireland share the same time zone, but as Sligo is a lot farther west than Essex, where we lived, it gets dark nearly an hour later. Also, with no street lighting where we are, light pollution is lower and the evening glow is easier to see. When it does get dark, it gets very dark and the stars are so bright. Let's look at 4 things together. The letter, to use the British pronunciation R, is pronounced in Ireland or, as you can hear in the name of the national broadcaster.
A reimagining of a classic show for a new generation. All Creatures Great and Small starts Sunday at 6:30 on RTE1 and RTE Player.
The quality of programming on RTE, whether TV or radio, is excellent. Many programmes are homegrown, with some from Britain and some from the US. In Ireland, it is an offence to own a television set without buying a TV licence, even if you aren't using the set. The people in Britain who complain that they wouldn't need a licence as they only watch channels supported by adverts would be livid about Ireland. RTE, the national broadcaster, shows adverts despite being licence funded.
At electricireland.ie.
We'll return to your big movie in just a few minutes, but first...
If you come from Great Britain, your car registration plates look like this and consist of the registration district code, date of registration and sequential lettering. There may also be an indicator of the country of origin, although I believe GB has fallen out of usage in favour of UK. Irish registration plates are similar. The first 2 numbers are the year of registration. The third number is the half of the year of registration. Next are 1 or 2 letters. This is the code indicating the county of registration. Above the county code is the name of the county in Irish. And lastly, the sequential registration number. Some numbers may be reserved. For instance, number 1 may be reserved for the county's mayor's official car. In this example, the letter C is Cork registration. The previous was WW for Wicklow. British police have been getting a bad reputation of late. Whether this is justified or not isn't for this video or its producers to speculate. Irish police officers, Gardaí in Ireland and informally Guards, have a far better, although not perfect, reputation. I have only had good interactions with members of the Garda Síochána, which means Guardians of the Peace in Irish, mainly while chatting with them, but also when I had my accident on Knocknaree Mountain, when their assistance was invaluable. Britain has its world famous NHS or National Health Service. Ireland has the HSE or Health Service Executive. Are the NHS and HSE the same thing? No, they are very similar, but they're not identical. The NHS for general medicine and essential surgery is free at the point of use. The HSE consists of free services like hospital admission and appointments, but this is backed up by private doctors and doctors' surgery nurses. A visit to the doctor costs me €50 and a blood test is €30, unless it's done at a hospital when it's free. Prescription drugs are chargeable unless you have a particular range of long-term illnesses, when the drugs to treat that illness are free. For example, all my diabetes medication, including insulin, is free. Chargeable drugs are still reasonably priced and are only a tiny fraction of the prices in the US. So, the NHS is a nationalised and universal system. The HSE is a private medicine backed by support from the state. Ireland is a democratic republic and therefore has elections. This is a British polling station. And this is an Irish one. The difference? None really. The difference lies in the voting systems used. Britain in most cases uses the first past the post system and a single vote per voter. Ireland uses a form of proportional representation called a single transferable vote, where you number your candidates in order of your preference. Non-Irish EU citizens living in Ireland can vote in all elections except the presidential elections. British citizens living in Ireland cannot vote in the presidential or EU elections. When you think of double-decker buses, you think of the UK and probably London in particular. Well, Ireland also has them, but mainly in the cities and large towns. Outside these places, single-decker buses run. These are normally quite luxurious and more like coaches. Many people, when thinking about Ireland, forget its wonderful coastlines. Some people do think about its magnificent cliffs, but fewer know the fantastic beaches, often called strands. Unlike the seaside in the UK, there are few amusement arcades, roller coasters, candy floss machines or Kiss Me Quick hats. Only rolling sands, dunes, rock pools, large sweeping bays and little coves. You really need to explore these. So there we go, another video comes to an end. Did we cover all the similarities and differences between Great Britain and Ireland? Not a chance. We haven't even scratched the surface. What is my conclusion? Which is better, Great Britain or Ireland? That isn't for me to say. Some people will like the faster, more intense life in Britain, others will like the slower, more relaxed life in Ireland. Would we ever go back to living in the UK? Not if we can help it. We miss our family and friends there, and I miss my favourite sport, Speedway, which doesn't exist here, but Ireland is now home and where we feel we belong. We have nothing against the UK, but Ireland suits us better. Thank you for watching to the end. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Please hit the like button and leave a comment. All these things help the channel grow. If you feel able, please contribute to the channel by using Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the description. As at the time of publication, YouTube pay us absolutely nothing and all expenses have to be met out of our own pockets. To those of you who have already contributed, we thank you. Your contributions have already been put to good use and helped us purchase a much needed new camera and microphone system. So, thanks again. This is Old Hiking Geezer and Mrs. Old Hiking Geezer saying goodbye. Onwards and upwards.